It's Nate with Pulse PEMF. We are in the PulseCast booth here at the 2025 Biohacking Conference, and I've got Kyle Jones with me from iCRYO. Kyle, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to join us here in the Pulse PEMF booth.
Yeah, no, the booth is phenomenal, to be honest. When I walked in here, I was like, wow, very impressive.
It's definitely drawing the
Yeah,
crowd for
yeah, it
sure.
is. And
So,
uh,
and I'm sure you've been busy at your booth as well.
it has been really good. I mean, this biohacking conference, Dave Asprey always does a great job, but I think it's just attracting so many people every year. And I love it because it creates more awareness in the space.
Yes. And this is our tribe, right?
Yep.
Like these are the people who get it. There's no excuses. We're looking for the ways to increase longevity, but the quality of life, not just the length of life as well. And you know all about that. We're going to get into some of the modalities that you offer as well. I want to first start though with cryotherapy because I think a lot of what the everyday person sees on social media is that there's a specific type of clientele. They'll see like high performing execs and athletes, but let's debunk that for a minute because cryotherapy is, and the other modalities that you offer, is for the everyday person. So let's talk even just like on a daily basis, the regular clientele that come to see you and your team.
Yeah, it was interesting when I got into this industry 13 years ago, back in 2012. I thought it was just going to be for athletes. You know, you had your Olympic runners that were doing cryotherapy. They were doing some sauna, some red light, some compression.
Yep.
I remember I put the first iCRYO location next to a gym. I thought that was going to be our clientele. I found out really fast we were wrong. I
Really?
would tell you athletes are maybe 5, 10% of our business. I would tell you the average human being does what we do. And so it's funny when I see people out at a grocery store out, traveling, and they see my logo on the shirt and like, oh, I've heard of cryotherapy, I've heard of red light, or I've heard of sauna or PMF. Am I a candidate for that? And I always jokingly respond, are you a living, breathing human being?
Come
Right?
on.
Because in
Right.
my mind, everybody harnesses inflammation,
Yep.
everybody harnesses oxidative stress in some fashion, everybody harnesses something that can be not cured, but really assisted, right? And so in
Yep.
my mind, everything from cryo to red light to PEMF, IV infusions, you can be a candidate for that because at some point your body is struggling with inflammation.
Yes, absolutely. Especially with the high stress levels that everyone's under, that will definitely create those inflammatory responses in the body.
Mhm.
So not everything we see on social media, y'all, is factual. It's not just for the high performing executives and the
Yep.
athletes. You said about 95% is just the everyday
The
person.
everyday person. I mean, it's interesting. We have people that come in as young as 7, 8, 9 years old. You think about kids these days, they're starting athletics, gymnastics, and stuff at 4 years old. I mean, I
Yep.
remember when I got into, football, baseball, basketball as a kid, I started sports at 5. So these kids are put under a lot of stress these days. So things
Yes.
like compression and red light and PMF and at the end of the day, obviously we want the parent consent, but
Right.
it's at a young age, these kids are being put through a lot of mental and physical stress.
Yes.
And you take it the back end of the spectrum, people are senior citizens that are 80, 90. They're going through stress from the entire livelihood that they lived,
Right.
and they're trying to recover on a daily basis. So, for me, the average person comes into iCryo for almost everything that we do.
So let's go back while we're on the subject of people starting young. What was like cryotherapy? Was that your entrance into biohacking and the modalities? Like what is your origin
It
story?
was, yeah. I was pursuing my doctorate in physical therapy
Okay.
back in 2010, 2011. I just love the way the body operates, how it kind of moves and heals on its own. And so I was very attracted to that. I did exercise science, kinesiology. I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit from my father, so I double majored in business management. I wanted to start my own clinic. And I was midway through physical therapy school and I stumbled across cryo. And this is back in 2012 when nobody knew what it was,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
one of the early adopters. And that was the first trigger for me to be, like, wait, there's something different. We can treat people in a different way, right? A little bit more holistic, a little bit more, I would say, from an authentic basis. And yeah, cryo very quickly led me to compression. That's right when Normatec really took off.
Right.
The first wave of Normatec, and then you had CrossFitters doing a bunch of infrared sauna and compression therapy, and so it's like one modality led me to the next, led me to the next, and it's
It's
like
a deep rabbit hole,
you get
right?
sucked in very fast. And I always,
Especially in an event like this, you're like,
yeah,
just when you thought you've seen
yeah,
everything, there's a new modality that somebody has discovered.
yeah. It's interesting because we're one of the largest retail franchise companies in the space and in the
Yep.
world, and almost half or more of our franchisees were at one point a customer. And so it's
That makes
like
sense.
they walked into an iCRYO location, they did our services, they saw the benefits firsthand, and then they said, "Wait, this is a franchise? I can open one of these in my community?" And so yeah, we've got a lot of franchisees that were at one point a customer in another location and initially just became a believer because they were doing the treatments.
Right. So let's talk about some of the benefits. You introduced a few about the anti-inflammation, but let's talk about the full spectrum of what cryotherapy could do. What are the types of clientele that come in, and what are their issues when when they're bringing their lives or their families to your facilities?
Yeah, I would say there's two things that somebody's going to get from cryotherapy. Obviously, the cold stimulation of the vagus nerve is what we shoot for, right?
Yep.
So, but the vagus nerve stimulation, most people think it's just a
Mhm.
fight or flight response, and it's not. It can also trigger a rest and digest response. So
Yep.
you're triggering the central nervous system, and it's either going to hit the parasympathetic or the sympathetic side. So I always tell people you're gonna get a different experience than the person sitting next to you, right? It could
Yep.
give you that response that kind of gives you a boost of endorphins, a little bit of energy. It's almost like supplemental coffee in the morning, if you will.
Right.
And then you have some people where it hits the opposite. It hits the parasympathetic nervous system and it kind of shuts them down, right? It
Yep.
gets them to calm down. A lot of melatonin's released, a lot of serotonin's released, and
So cool.
they hit that relaxing phase. And for me, that's what I get from it. I'm a very
Yep.
high strung individual. I'm always on the go, go, go. And
Yep.
I always operate kind of at that level 10. And so when I do cryo, it should be at the end of the day because it shuts me down. It forces my system to relax, forces me to be calm. I get a massive melatonin release, and so it almost puts me to sleep a little bit.
Wow.
So I always tell people, when you do cryotherapy, do the first treatment and really see how you feel from it because everybody's going to react different.
So with iCryo, then there's no cookie cutter way to handle this. It really is a customized approach to everyone. So what are some of the other offerings that you guys offer now?
Correct. So we have a lifestyle service category, which is cryo, compression, red light, infrared sauna, um, cryo compression, red light, infrared sauna, and float. And
Okay.
then we've got our medical services category. So IV infusions, we do intermuscular shots, we do the GLP ones with medical weight loss, semaglutide, tirzepatide. We offer hyperbaric chambers, which has been a huge hit for us. Hyperbaric medicine is just phenomenal.
Yep.
Ozone therapy, which is one of my personal favorites. So being able to detoxify and cleanse the blood is just incredible.
Yep.
We offer a good stem cell or regimen. So we offer exosomes, we offer stem cells, amniotic fluid derived and cord tissue derived. So we offer two different products.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're really digging into, for us, it's if you were to take a med spa, an aesthetics facility, a longevity center, a wellness center, and almost like a recovery center, and you put those all into one, that's us. Right? It's
Wow.
a very
That sounds
particular
like a dream place for
it
someone
it
like me.
it is, and it's funny, when somebody comes in for the first time, they see the name iCryo, and they're like, "Oh, you do cryotherapy?" Like,
Right.
no, 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 no. That's like one of 30 things that we offer. And so for us, when somebody walks in the door for the first time, the first thing we do is give them a tour. We want to walk them around the building, 5 to 10 minute tour, show them all the things that we have. And it's interesting how by the time they're done with that tour, they just have this look like, oh my gosh, I want to do 5 or 6 things, right?
Yep.
Can I do a combo pack? Can I do a day pass? Can I buy a package and mix some things together? Our memberships are kind of multifaceted. So when you buy a membership from us, it's a credits based system. So
Okay.
we don't force you into one or two services. You can kind of select what services you want to do with your membership.
That's so
Yeah.
great.
So in my mind, you said it a minute ago, it's a customized and a tailored approach to wellness, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't want to say everybody's good for cryotherapy or everybody's good for red light. At the end of the day, all the services that we provide do provide a benefit, but we want it to be customized to what you want, right? You're
Absolutely.
spending the money. It's your hardworking dollars. So if you want to do red light twice a week and compression once a week and PMF 3 times a week, at the end of the day, we want to create a membership that has a customized lifestyle approach to what you need.
I love that. So while we're on this the subject of biohacking, stacking the modalities together, what's one of your favorites? Like
Yeah.
every week,
Yep.
this is what Kyle Jones does.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. So you asked the wrong person that.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did because it's a lot. I mean, for me, I'm addicted to this space. I'm addicted to living a healthy lifestyle.
Come
Like to
on.
me, health span and longevity. I know it's new for most people. I've been doing this my whole life, and so Sauna almost every single day,
Yep.
compression probably 4 times a day, PEMF a good 2 or 3 times a week, hyperbaric chambers probably 2 or 3 times a week, cryo a good 4 or 5 times a week. Red light therapy is the first thing I do when I step out of bed. Literally walk from my bedroom to my red light bed in my house and do red light. So it's literally probably 5 or 6 services multiple times a week.
Okay.
And for me, I'm not trying to biohack myself to be healthy, right? So nutrition and the things that you consume orally
Yes.
and the things you eat and drink are also a
Absolutely.
massive part of how your body remains healthy. But at the end of the day, I know there are other components like PMF or red light or cryo that can help calm down the inflammation and make you feel better throughout the day.
Right. So when you're stacking modalities, for the instance of pulse PEMF,
Mhm.
what would you say PEMF before or PEMF after? What is the timing? How do you stagger some of those modalities?
Yeah, I would definitely, it depends on what service you're stacking it with, but also how the person responds to it. So
Yep.
I always tell people you could have person A, person B, and you could do red light before or after PMF on person A, and person B could do the same before or after and get a different result. People respond differently to each therapy. So there's no cookie cutter approach, which is why for us in our business, when we have people opting to do a service, we usually pitch them a day pass. We say, hey, look, it's a day pass. You can do multiple services, see how you feel with those services.
That's great.
You don't want to go right into jumping in. Hey, let's lock you down on a $300 or $400 membership where you got a commitment and you feel like you're locked. Try out a day pass, try out a few services, stack them together a little bit differently. If you're not sold and you want to come back and do another day pass and kind of stack them a little bit differently the second time,
Yep.
we want people to be comfortable with their results. And
Right.
so at the end of the day, I think when people have this cookie cutter approach of saying you must do this or you must do this, you got to realize one size does not fit all.
That's absolutely true.
Everybody's completely different. And so we're very methodical and intentional about saying, hey, every person is different from the next. And so we want people to experience the treatments before they commit to some massive package or some massive membership. Because once again, these services could be hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Right.
And, we're trying to create a system for the masses.
Absolutely. So you mentioned a lot about how you let them select and let them really feel what feels best for them.
Mhm.
Are there any situations where you're like, this client is a perfect candidate for PEMF? Like we
Oh,
know they need PEMF regardless, and we're going to make that recommendation. At the end of the day, they can choose it. But when you look at their situation, you're like, we're highly recommending that you do PEMF. What are those situations look like?
definitely. So I talked about the tour earlier, right? A
Hmm.
tour is that two-way conversation for the guests to understand us and for
Yes,
us to understand the guest,
it
right?
builds that rapport and trust.
We want that feedback. We want to know why they're in, what are the struggles they're dealing with, not just physical, but also mental. And that's what I think one component is a lot of people are missing. We're so focused on the physical rehab, we're not focused on the mental rehab. And I
Good
think
point.
honestly, the mental challenges outweigh the physical challenges.
Many
And I
times, you're
remember
absolutely right.
being in physical therapy, we'd be focusing on a total knee replacement or a total shoulder replacement. And the physical rehab wasn't the component to overcome. It was the mental challenge to get the patient to understand number one, you can do this. Put them in a positive environment. Put them in an environment that they feel like they can physically recover in.
Yes,
And so it at the end of the day, it is building that rapport. It is getting them to understand that we have the things here to help you, but they need to be bought in at that same time. You always have to get the buy-in from the guest, from the
absolutely.
patient.
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of clinics that I've seen where I've walked into are kind of missing the boat. They feel like it's almost like they're forcing somebody into something and nobody wants to be told what to do, right?
Absolutely.
And so at the end of the day, it's getting the guest to converse back with you and say, "Hey, look, here's what I'm experiencing mentally. Here's what I'm experiencing physically." And then you take that data, and then a clinical provider needs to give some type of feedback on how to tailor that guest in a certain direction. And so we have a fully integrated telemedicine platform. We've got eight APPs that answer telemedicine calls across the system. We've got 4 MDs that sit on our medical advisory board, and
Come on.
they'll run through an entire telemedicine consultation after the tour. So you get a 5 to 10 minute tour from a lifestyle consultant there in the center. We then put you on a telemedicine consultation with a medical provider that can take that information and give that feedback to say, hey, on the tour, we've heard these things from you, right? You're dealing with this, you're dealing with that, you're dealing with this, you're dealing with that. Based on our clinical data, based on the things that we know that we can help you with, here's what we recommend, right? So you get clinical feedback on what you should be doing, but then it's up to the guest, right? There's no forceful conversation. We're not demanding
Right.
anything. We're showing you based on what you've told us what's going to benefit you the most, and this is our recommendation.
So you're really looking at the holistic scope, the whole person, as you said, mental as well, emotional, all of that plays into the
Mhm.
physical. So do you have a story, like one of your top 10 stories of like a total turnaround? I love the
Yeah,
testimonial
yeah.
stories.
Man, I'll tell you the one that I'll never forget. It's the story that made me go all in to this and
Okay,
to iCRYO, to the company, to this whole concept. And obviously HIPAA, I can't say names, but
sure.
I'll never forget we had, and it was just cryotherapy. So we had a patient of ours that started doing cryotherapy for, I think it was a total knee replacement.
Okay,
And I started to notice that some of the feedback she was giving me wasn't just the knee, right? It was like I was sleeping better, I had more energy, I was less stressed. And so I started to pay attention to not the physical benefits, but the mental benefits that she was having from it. And it actually got to the point where she became so positive. I didn't know this, but she ended up kind of, confiding to me and saying, "Hey, Kyle, I've been on antidepressants for 18 years. And I feel to the point now where maybe I could lower my dose."
wow,
And that hit me. Like that pulled my heartstrings big time. Like that is a moment in somebody's life where they have been medicated for almost 2 decades and they feel in their brain, they feel in their mind wholeheartedly that they could maybe diminish the milligram count or maybe get off, right?
right.
And so fast forward the story, we were able to pull off her antidepressants 100%.
Come on.
It was about, I think it was about 4 or 5 months of doing cryotherapy about 4 times a week on average.
Okay,
And her physicians and the people that have been with her over the last 18 years of prescribing her this walked into our clinic. They couldn't believe that this cryotherapy chamber was creating that significant of a benefit.
come
And
on.
yeah, they titrated her down over the next couple of months and essentially pulled her off completely. She went,
Did they start incorporating
she
these
they started referring
modalities?
more patients. That's yeah.
Okay. So referring
It
to
was
you.
referrals.
So
Yeah.
instead of them expanding their services, they're like, all right, we're sending them to Kyle.
Correct, correct.
Oh,
And
come
that
on.
that was a story very early on in my career where once again, we were just doing cryotherapy at that time. We didn't
Yep.
have all these other modalities. I didn't even know about PEMF back then.
Yep.
And so it's just interesting to see a modality like that create that type of an impact. But then you see all of these other modalities in this conference that can create just as much of an impact, if not more. We just have to pay attention to it.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what we're not doing. We're not paying attention to the underlying things that are happening. We're so focused on the one specific reason that the patient is doing it for,
Yes.
but it's providing an array of benefits that we should be focused on.
Absolutely. So how can our viewers find out more about you and iCryo and the different locations that you guys have?
Yeah, definitely. So we're all across the country. We actually just launched Canada a couple years ago, so we'll be servicing the Canadian market. Yeah, I
Congratulations.
think it's been big for us. You can follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Kyle Jones. You can find me on all the platforms, and our website iCryo.com is where most people submit. Whether it's an inquiry on the franchise or a comment on some of the services we offer. You can find all of our locations on the location tab.
Yep.
We're in about 21 different states right now, so
Come
the
on.
goal is to be coast to coast in all 50, but
Yes.
we're getting there.
That's so
Yeah.
exciting. Man, thank you so much for sharing all this information. And we are one mission with many voices. And so we encourage you guys to stay locked into the voices that are contributing to the biohacking movement. And you can, again, you can check out his website, follow him on social media. And while you're there, go ahead and follow Pulse PMF for more wellness tips, hacks, and inspiring testimonials. And find out what is available for this generation to unlock human potential. We'll see you in the next conversation.